Che Guevara was born on June 14th, 1928 in Rosario, Argentina. For much of his life, he would spread Marxist ideologies around South America, eventually leading to his downfall. He particularly focused much of his work in Cuba, setting up the pathway for the rise of infamous dictator Fidel Castro. Che Guevara was a man of rather questionable qualities, but to many, he was revered as a charismatic hero of the people. He had undeniable charisma, endearing the people of Cuba, and not to mention, this man was pretty much drowning in women. He met the peak beauty standard of men in Cuba, which may have given him advantage in capturing the attention of the people and still being relevant within pop culture today. Che, being a man of the people themselves, believed in Marxist ideologies and spent the majority of his life dedicated to spreading his own personal ideology. He teamed up with the Castro brothers, already popular in Cuba at the time, furthering his adornment by the people. Che Guevara, however, was not to be messed with, as he was an expert in both guerrilla and conventional combat. His executions totaled from anywhere between 55 at a low estimate and 110 at a high. Che Guevara's fatal error lies in his political beliefs. The main mistake? He made enemies with the CIA through his radicalistic beliefs and natures. Che made enemies with one of the most powerful institutions in the modern world. Che's decision was a little goofy, a little clownish, maybe even a little wacky, per se. Making enemies with any three-letter institution is always a bad decision. The FBI and IRS will find you, the ATF will shoot your dog, but the CIA, they'll shoot you dead. During the 60s, the CIA were cracking down on communist groups as the nation neared the height of the Cold War. This led to groups like the Black Panther Party and Cuban revolutionaries often being killed in cold blood or simply disappearing. His poor stature with the U.S. would only be solidified when he traveled to New York to address the United Nations over the poor treatment of Cubans as well as the violation of Cuban airspace. Diminishing the U.S. in their own house was the nail in the coffin for Che Guevara. In the autumn of 1966, Che Guevara would travel to Bolivia, completely incognito, along with a detachment of guerrilla fighters. Here, Che would draw attention to himself, accidentally of course, and therefore lure the CIA towards him. On October 8, 1967, Che and his fighters were attacked by the Bolivian army as well as a small group of CIA advisors. During the attack, Che was wounded but continued to fight up until the moment he was subdued upon capture. Che would be executed in the village of La Higuera on that fateful day. His hands were chopped off and preserved in formaldehyde, not only to prevent suspicion that the execution had never occurred, but for fingerprint recording and booking as well. President Lyndon B. Johnson was reportedly upset at the news of his death, as he intended for Che to be captured alive for the interrogation within the United States. Che Guevara was undoubtedly a true tragic hero. Whether to you he's a dirty commie or a socialist boy boss, it's undoubted that this man truly had some massive cojones. To bite a thumb at the CIA, especially in the manner he did, it's death. And yet he still did it and accepted his fate with honor. That being said, he laid a path for the oppression of the Cuban people under the totalitarian regime of Fidel Castro. So he clearly made mistakes in his choice of friends.